It's that Schmeckenbecher cuckoo quail clock. I told you I had to order a time side main gear for it. Well, I got it in. Sometimes these thick plate clocks, and this is a thick plate clock. I want to say it's 2 millimeters in thickness, which puts it around 2 millimeters, which puts it post World War II. Schmeckenbecher was created in 1948. But anyway, sometimes these thick plate movements, it's hard to put the plates together because the plates are so thick and the holes are very small. They drill the holes just enough to go in the post. I personally don't want to be biting it, so I'm going to take a cutting broach and broach out the holes a little bit. That way, it's easier to put the movement together. And what's it going to hurt? Nothing. It helps you out. It ain't taking away the functioning of the clock. And so, when I do things that'll help you out. Um, and even with the holster it out a little bit, you still have to force it together. But I'm going to snap this thing together off camera, and then we're going to go to the next step. Yeah, I got the plates together. I'm using the rubber bands. That way I can spread the plates apart to help me access a third hand. I got the time side great wheel, second wheel on, and you can see it spins just great. It means it has plenty of end shake. Now it's time to put the escapement wheel on. Get it started in one pivot and then spread the plate apart just a little bit to get it to snap into place. And then make sure all the wheels are still in their correct pivots. And you can see the ratchet wheel is working fine, where before, this is the old ratchet wheel. And this is the spring system that they use to make it a ratchet wheel. And somehow the spring is coiled, and then the end here would fit in one of these holes. But, you know, for $5, it's a lot easier just to order another one. So now you decide on which. I don't want to put the escapement with, the virgin crutch assembly in yet, because even with the I might have to put a bushing in. I'm just noticing the escapement wheel is moving quite a bit. I need to take this thing back apart and do a tilt test, because I think it needs a bushing. You see how far it tilts? Put it in this way. That's not the way it goes. It goes in this way, but it tilts too much. So it needs a bushing. You see how much space is between it? Anyway, it needs a bushing. This way it's fine. It tilts some. It could use a bushing. because I'm putting a bushing in the other one, I might as well put a bushing in this one. But this one definitely needs a bushing. And these are bushings, KWM bushings that I just bought off of Time Savers. And L65 through L69 on the top section, L70, 71, 72, 73, and L27. This tells you the size of reamer. This number 2 is the size of reamer that you would use. And here's the number 3, then it goes up to 4, and then 5 for these last two. This shows you the height, shows you the bore, shows you the diameter. The height on all these, it says, is 1.4, where my height is 2. But as you can see, when you open up this case, you don't know which way to put the lid back down. But I put numbers on here. And when I open up this case, I'm going to put the numbers inside the case also. That way I can know which way to put this lid back on. And I just screwed up because I opened up the lid this way. Which was the wrong way to open up this lid. Because there's all the compartments. Now here's all my bushings. Now I have to figure out where to put these bushings back into here. This is so damn stupid, the way they made this. I thought that I thought this was the way you open it. You live and learn, I guess. How do I figure out what the sizes are? If I had a gauge, it would help. But I don't. So here's a smooth cutting broach that goes up to 2 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to put all those onto here. And if they're more than 2 millimeters in diameter, I'm setting them to a side. If they're less than 2 millimeters in diameter, I'm setting them to a side, because there are 4 of these that are less than 2 millimeters in diameter, and that is, there's 10 bushings per section. So I have 100 bushings total. So I got 40 bushings that I have to deal with that are less than 2 millimeters in diameter. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 60 bushings that are over 2 millimeters in diameter. Fun, fun, fun. Okay, this is a brand new box. There's supposed to be 10, and each one of these would give me 100, okay? I put L65 through L71 in this container. So that means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in this container. And I have 2 left. But I'm supposed to have 3 left. L72, L73, and L27. So that means I was short 10 bushings. And, you know, granted, I opened this stupid thing wrong, but I'm supposed to have 100 bushings. I only have 90. And I'm taking a bushing and sliding it onto a pair of tweezers that I have marked, and as you could see in this case, these all fit on this mark, and the ones that I have left all fit on this mark. So my point is I'm short 10 bushings, and their container sucks. It should have been a container like this that you open up like that versus trying to open it up like I did and get all the bushings mixed up. Out of the two that I got left, this one is an outside diameter of 5.9. But this one, outside diameter, is 3.5. I'm supposed to have L73 and L27 that have an outside diameter of 5.9. And I'm supposed to have 10 each. So these are the ones that I got ripped off. The inside diameter is 2.9 on one and 3.0 on the other one. In order to get 3.0, I have to spread the caliper out a little bit. This could be L73. It might be L27. I don't know. Good thing is, honestly, I doubt if I'll ever use that many of these bushings. These would be for the on a cuckoo clock. It would be for maybe the minute arbor, for the 1 day regular 25s. But honestly, I don't know. But all I know is I was short 10 bushings when I ordered this brand new package, and their container sucks. I spent probably 2 hours sorting all these bushings, putting them in this container, trying to figure out where they belong. So it is April the 8th at 11 a.m. About 2 more hours, the eclipse is going to happen. I went to town, little town of Donovan, Missouri, 3,500 people. It's crowded. The streets are blocked off. People are selling t-shirts, eclipse t-shirts. Everything's being crazy. But anyway, this is a KWM reamer set that I bought. And it doesn't come with a holder. I really need to make a block, or take a block wood and drill holes. That way I can know which reamer is which. But it comes with reamers 1 through 5 and a champering tool. This is what you use afterwards to make sure that no excess bushing is sticking on the plates. And also, if your bushing is too thick, I personally put the bushings in from the inside of the plates, making them flush. And if they were too thick, I would go on the outside and use this to ream it down. That way it'll give you a bigger oil sink. Because I am using KWM bushings and I bought this set, these bushings are 1.4 millimeters thick. These plates are 2 millimeters thick. I am going to put a 1.4 millimeter bushing in this, and then on the outside, it's just going to have a bigger oil sink. And as you can see, the oil sink for these bushings stick down quite a bit, so I don't think having a bigger oil sink is going to create any issues. But we've already determined that the bore diameter is what I have to determine next, and I forget what it was. I'm just going to measure it again. Remember, we're working with the escapement wheel, so the bore is 1.0 on the pivots. So let me get the box itself so you can read it better. 1.0 is the bore diameter. L65 is the bushing. The height is 1.4. The overall diameter is 1.8. Reamer number 2 is what you would use. So I'm going to get reamer number 2 out, and because they're not marked, you just have to determine which one is reamer number 2, which is going to be this one right here. Here's the tool that you use. Now you can ream this going clockwise or anti-clockwise, whatever you want to use. And if the hole is oblonged, you don't want to start reaming the hole. If it's oblonged, I've showed this before. I'm going to get a piece of paper, stand by. Perfect circle. But if your hole is oblong from too much wear, it's worn to the right, it's no longer a perfect circle. And if you start reaming the hole, and instead of you having a true centered hole, your center is going to be off. Instead of it being right here where it needs to be, when you start reaming it, now the center is going to be over here. And you don't want that. So what you have to do, you have to take a small file and file out this metal so it matches 180 degrees opposite of the worn out section. So you would file out this, that way when you put your reamer in, it's going to find dead center again. And so without you filing this section off, when you ream it off, it's going to make your dead center off. So you have to, if the hole is oblong, you have to file 180 degrees opposite of the oblonged area, the worn out area, the cut out area, to that way when you go to use your cutting broach, drill, reamer, whatever, it automatically finds dead center again. So make sure that when you check out your holes that they are not egg-shaped. If they are egg-shaped, you have to take a file and file opposite. And if you can't find a file, maybe you can use, they have diamond bit cutting broaches, and I've shown that in other videos. You can sit there and use your diamond bit cutting broach and file it 180 degrees opposite of the worn out area to get that egg-shaped section matching 180 degrees. So what you're going to do is, again, with we already determined it was reamer number 2 from using this chart, because I'm going to use L65 bushing, even though the height, I already told you it's 1.4 inch and my plates are 2.0, but I'm going to use L65. It says I need to use reamer number 2. With cutting broaches, you would have to start with the small broach and then go up. With the reamers, you find the correct reamer and you start. You want to go slow, and you want to keep the reamer parallel with the plate at all times, because if you don't, then your wheel is going to go off-centered. So it's going to take me some time to do this because I have carpal tunnel in both my hands. So I'm going to do it off camera. If you use a drill, it's very possible that using the drill will cause the hole to be bigger, and you don't want that. So anyway, like I said, it's going to take me some time, so I'm going to do this off camera. And what I want to mention is I put my bushings in from the inside, so you want to ream from the inside. The only reason I'm showing you this is to so you can get reference from this posting here to the tool to see that it's equal amount and distance away to help you with that reference. Again, the tool has to be straight up and down with the plates in all directions, or your hole is going to be off. I'm through the hole with my reamer number 2, so now I want to put the champering tool on. That will take care of the burrs. That, believe it or not, you can peel a burr here. So just a couple of spins to take care of the burrs. Now it's nice and flat. Now if you have, and if you can use it, a staking set, which is used for pocket watches, is good for putting the bushings in, because you can, not all bushings, of course, but you can put this down and then use some of these tools to push the bushings in. If you have a drill press, that works also. But in this particular bushing that I'm trying to put in, that is in the way. So I drilled holes in this wood, and I'm gonna have to make my hole bigger, because this needs to fit inside that hole. So there we go. So now I get my bushing out and put it in that hole and push it in. Now hopefully you can see this, but the bushing itself has got a oil sink in it, so you want to put the oil sink down toward the exterior or the back plate. Currently it's spacing up, so I have to flip it around. And you know, these bushings are so small. Hopefully I can do this on camera. So get it prepared to be knocked in, and then put it in. And you want to feel for it to make sure it's not sticking up any. I think it's sticking up a little bit, so I'm going to take one of these pusher pieces from my staking set, and I'm going to put it on top of it and give it a tap. Now I don't feel anything. And when you put the bushing in, sometimes it's going to close up the hole, and that's why, again, you have to purchase cutting broaches to open up that hole again. So I have to get a cutting broach out and open up that hole, and I'll be back. With the cutting broach, I was able to open up the hole, and then you also want to use a smoothing broach inside that hole. That way it doesn't catch. And you also wanted to polish up the pivots before you did any of this, because if you didn't polish up the pivots, and I forgot to mention that, then depending on what you polished up the pivots with, I use an Arkansas stone myself. It doesn't take away any of the material, but if you use something that will take away the material, then your hole is going to be bigger after you polish the pivots up, because you forgot to polish them up before you started all this. And then afterwards, you want to put the part in between the plates and give it a spin to make sure it spins freely, and make sure it has end shake. End shake, again, is front plate to rear plate, front plate to rear plate. Giving it a spin and make sure it has end shake. Now, I did not put both bushings in because I was wanting to see how it looked before I put the other bushing in. And honestly, I don't believe it needs a bushing on this rear plate. The front plate was really bad, but now it's taken care of. And you can see that the oil sink is a little bit bigger, but it should be just fine. And like I said, I don't believe it needs a... I'm going to give it some side-to-side. It doesn't have side-to-side play. It doesn't have that much side-to-side play in the rear plate. It's got about the same amount of side-to-side play in the rear plate as it does in the front plate with the bushing that I just put in it. So I'm happy with it. And I made a quick container to hold my KWM reamers. When you're putting this thing back together, do not get discouraged if you have to put some wheels in several times. The rubber bands will help you out, but when you spread the plates apart just the way it is, some wheels will come out on you. Now, the important thing to do when working on the cuckoo side is the hammer, the lever that catches the 8-point star wheels. It has to be barely off one of the 8-point star wheels. And the cam on the second wheel has to be in probably the 12 o'clock position, 11:45 position. So this lever that goes into the count wheel, it is catching that cam. Now, this is a crude drawing, but this is the cam on the second wheel, the Pac-Man. And then this is the lever that goes into the cam on the second wheel, but that lever is also the part of the lever that has the wire on it, that this wire right here, lever right here, which goes into the count wheel to make it cuckoo a certain amount of times. But this lever has to go into this mouth of the cam, and then the third wheel warning pin is going to hit the end of this brass, well, in this case it's a metal silver lever. The third wheel warning pin, which is this, again, crude drawing right here, is going to hit the end of this lever that goes into the cam's mouth when the clock is done cuckooing. As you can see, I have a rubber band which I had to help me keep that lever down into that cam while I was putting the main wheel to get the lever for the cuckoo side on. And I'm going to leave that rubber band on and probably put some Rodico right here so I can put the third wheel warning pin this warning pin onto the clock now, and to the movement. Now, I just noticed this warning pin here has got 2 pins on it. Now, this might be, and I'm going to say that this one is for the cuckoo side of it, and that the bottom pin is for when it stops the clock and the from cuckooing, and then this pin is when it goes into warning. Some of them are designed differently, and I'm going to say that in this case that this is for the cuckoo side, and that the top pin, this pin right here, is when it goes into warning, and then this bottom pin is when it shuts off the cuckoo. If you remember on my Alexander bleed clock, it had a wire that came across here on the inside, and that wire is what the third wheel warning pin rode along. When it went into warning, it would catch the hump of the wire that goes around the second wheel. But with this clock, it's going to be this pin right here that is going to catch probably the same lever when it goes into warning. I took good pictures, except for last time I worked on this thing was, I want to say, back in December, maybe. And in that time frame, somehow I deleted my pictures. So I've got a YouTube video. I could watch my YouTube video, but I don't go in close enough to. I take that back. I haven't watched the entire YouTube video. I might show these pens. I don't know. I know I can figure it out without watching that video. I forgot to put this wire on, and the only way I could put that wire on, which is this pin right here, is I had to take this off, take the third wheel with warning pin out, and then put this part in, which goes on top of the second wheel. And I talked about this in other videos, but rubber bands are very helpful. As you can see, with this rubber band being putting pressure on this lever right here, which goes into the count wheel, it also, this lever right here goes into the cam on the second wheel. But when I push on it, you can see the rubber band is causing it to go right back into place where it needs to be. So anyway, I got the gong in place. I got the wire in place, which is tripped off of the quail to activate the cuckoo. And as you can see, when I lift this wire, it is lifting this lever out of that cam. So now I have to put the third wheel with the two warning pins on now. It's been a while since I worked on this clock, but this is the Schmeckenbecher cuckoo quail clock. It is very important for the bellow levers that you don't get them mixed up. This is the high note lift wire for the bellow wire, and this is the low note lift wire for the bellow wire. And this one is the quail bellow wire. You see the difference? This wire here is what grabs a hold of the second wheel pins, which is this lever right here. Great wheel, second wheel. And the second wheel on the quail side's got pins on it, and you should be able to see those pins. The gong hits those pins, and so does the quail bellow wire. Now there's pins on the inside and pins on the outside. Pins on the front of the movement, and there's pins on the rear of the movement. And if you were to put this wire, which fits in there, this lever I'm at, it fits in there, but the wire, the lever doesn't move other than it's hitting the third wheel with warning pin. That's why it's moving. Because this wire, like I said, this piece right here is what hits those pins on the second wheel. I might have to take this thing apart to put it on. And that's what I get for trying to explain things in videos. I'm going to bend that inside wire, so stand by. I had to bend it so I could put it on without taking the movement back apart. But now I got to straighten it all out so it catches that the pins. So as you can see, it's not going to catch those pins. And it catches the pins on the front of the movement because the gong lever catches the pins on the rear of the movement. So stand by. So I got the lever back in, and when I trip it, when I trip the cuckoo to play, as you can see, it moves up and down. But you have to hold the thing up in the air or it doesn't move, because when you're holding it up in the air, it's like it's connected to the bellow. But this clock is not stopping on the cuckoo, and the reason why, I don't know if you could see it. Do you see something missing? Let me take you over here to the cuckoo side and look at the third wheel. Do you see what it has? It's got pins. Well, the pin came out of this third wheel, so it's never going to stop chirping, because the pin has to hit the inside of this brass lever on the quail side. It hits the outside of this lever on the cuckoo side, but on the quail side, it hits the inside of that lever. And so I'm going to have to put a pin in this thing. And also, it is very easy to get these parts mixed up. And I'm going to explain what I did so you don't do the same thing. Whether it's a musical cuckoo clock or a cuckoo quail clock, the third wheel with warning pins, if it has 2 pins, it goes on the quail side or the music side. The pins, the one pin is to stop everything when it goes into warning. On the cuckoo side, only 1 pin is on the third wheel with warning pin. And as you can see, I got this one mixed up because there's a pin here and there's a pin here. So I'm going to have to swap them around. Don't believe me? Here's an antique movement, cuckoo quail movement. On the quail side, there are 2 pins. There's a pin here and a pin here. Hopefully you can see both of those pins and turn on my light. But there's a pin here and a pin here on the third wheel warning with warning pin. And on the cuckoo side, there's only 1 pin. So again, whether it's a cuckoo quail clock or whether it's a cuckoo with music, the older style with a count wheel system, third wheel with warning pin that has 2 pins goes on the right side of the movement as if you're looking at it from the rear. And the reason why the right side has 2 pins, 1 pin is to stop the system when it's done playing music or cuckooing or chirping for the quail. The other pin is when the clock goes into warning. It hits a lever, and when it's done chirping, the pin that's on the rear of the movement, it comes around and it hits the inside of that brass tab. when it goes into warning, the pin that's on the front of the movement, it hits this wire that is attached to this, this part right here that trips the system. And you should be able to see that pin right here. And when I lift this up, you should be able to see the wire that it hits. Hopefully you can see that. Here's the pin, and here's the wire that it hits. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's a cuckoo quail clock or a cuckoo with music clock that has a count wheel system. More than likely, everyone that I've ever dealt with, the third wheel with warning pin on the right side, it's got two pins. One to stop it when it's done playing music or chirping, and the other one on the front side to stop it while the clock is in warning. And then the cuckoo side only has one pin, and it's toward the rear of the movement, and it hits the outside of this piece right here. In this case, it's a brass lever, and that Schmeckenbecher, it's a metal lever, but you should be able to see it hit the outside of that lever. If you look right in here, you will see it. So again, and that one pin hits this wire that lifts up that lever when it goes into warning. So taking parts of this clock back off, you will notice that the hammer has a pin in it on the cuckoo side, and this pin is to keep the hammer in place. It doesn't have one on the quail side, so I'm going to put one in it by just taking a piece of wire and cutting the wire to the length I think it needs, and then smashing that wire to pull it through. And as I always say, square hole don't fit in a round peg, and that's why you smash it so it stays in place. I should have got a longer piece of wire, so let me go ahead and do that. And with it smashed, I'll be able to put this thing in and force it to go in. See, it doesn't want to go in because I got it smashed. So I'm going to force it to go in. And that way it will stay in place. Just trying to find a hole. There we go. Then I could push this thing down with. See, now it don't want to come out. And that's what I wanted. I just want to push it down some more. No big deal. I'm just going to drill a hole in my wood That way I can push it down some more. If I was married, I'd probably be divorced by now, because I drill in my bedroom all the time and I get wood chips and everything else. But, when you're single, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. So anyway, that's nice and tight. So now I can put it back in the clock. Now, if you look, when I activate the system, the hammer bounces. And that's because I didn't cut that pin off enough. Inside this spring right here is what that pin that I added catches, but that pin is, you might be able to see it. Let me put on some light. This pin is hitting that cam on the second wheel, so I got to take it back off. No big deal. In order to take it off, you have to remove this tapered pin here, which allows you to rotate it to take it all out. And I don't need to take it out, I just need to cut some off. So now I put my tapered pin back in and I should be good to go. The spring needs to come down some. It's going to hit the gong a few times, and I don't want that, so I got to figure that out. As I was saying, the third wheel for the cuckoo side is missing the warning pin. And you want to make sure that you put it on the right side when you put it in. I got this package of pivot staff, and so I selected a piece that goes into that hole. So I need to cut it off, and then I'm going to smash the end of it. That way when I pull it in, it'll be tight. And then I'm going to take some high thread Loctite and seal it. And we should be good to go. You should be able to see that I smashed one side. So when I pull it through, as I said, a square hole can't fit in a round peg. Yeah, it's a little long, but I will cut it off later. And that's pretty tight, but I got some sticking out, so I'm going to pull it through a little bit more if I can. And somehow it got loose, but once I put that high strength thread lock on it should tighten it all up. I used to not use this stuff. One of my YouTube subscribers said instead of soldering the pivots in, he uses this high strength Loctite, and I like it because I suck at soldering. And so that's what I'll be using to tighten this thing in. I'm just gonna have to let it dry. And we'll get back. couldn't figure out the spring for this gong. It just kept bouncing. So I did, let me get this hammer out of the way. I did like this antique movement where it has a spring right here. Oh, so now when it's activated, it strikes and it doesn't sit there and bounce. So I'm happy with that. And you have to remember, when you're working with the cuckoo side versus the quail or music side, that the system is totally backwards. So here I'm rotating the wheel clockwise. Over here I'm rotating the wheel counterclockwise. Sorry, I'm rotating it clockwise, but I don't have all the parts in. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that third wheel warning pin on the quail / music side hits the inside of this brass lever when it stops, and over here it hits the outside of that lever when it stops. Got to keep that in mind. It's confusing. And when you got to put the quail cam on, which is this, in this case the pins come up towards you. You don't want to tighten the screw down until you trip it to make sure that it's going to stop. And then you, because this wire here has to go down in one of these notches, and then you tighten it up. Or in this case, I'm going to turn it so I can see the screw to tighten it up. And then you're going to test it, because you might have to do this a few times, because believe it or not, this cam will rotate on you while you're trying to get it in the right position. And like I said, if I was to hold the quail wire up, it will do its thing while it's rotating. So I'm happy with that. Now I just have to wait for the pin to dry with my high strength Loctite. And go from there. And for some reason the hammer is no longer functioning. And that's because the pin that the hammer hits is too far away. The wire that hits those pins is too far away. So I need to bend it toward the front. And when you're doing all this stuff, you're gonna have to determine for yourself whether or not it's worth bending. Because if you bend it too much, you're gonna break it. You're gonna have to replace it. Because this thing only has 3 slots, this right here is for the hour and the quarter of the hour. So you want the wire to be closest to this side of the cam as possible, because if not, it's not gonna stop on the quarter past the hour. So I'm fixing to put the third wheel with warning pin and governor fan on the cuckoo side, and I don't want the second wheel, great wheel, and this lever that goes in the second wheel cam moving. So I have a hair tie on this lever that goes into the second wheel cam, and I got it attached to my movement. That way when I spread these plates apart, that those parts will not move on me.